Okay, so you want a letter of recommendation. That's fine. Let's go over a few things that might help us get you a letter. First of all, letters of recommendation are very important. I put them on university letterhead. It takes time to write them and to write a thoughtful letter. And I'm happy to do one for you uh, so that it helps you get a job or scholarship or if you're applying to a graduate program. You should always stay in touch with your professors and the people you work with so that you can ask them for letters of recommendation. And as an informal rule, I was always told you should ask for letters of recommendation in person, right? Because it's a kind of an important thing. Now, I'm always happy to write letters of recommendation for my students because a lot of professors wrote letters for me. And so it's kind of a way for me to return that favor. And I'm very happy to do it, especially when I see good students advance themselves and get their dream job or get into the graduate program that they really want. So I'll do my best to help you along those lines. But there are some things you should know about letters of recommendation. First of all, you have to be actually applying for something. In other words, you don't collect letters like you're collecting stuff in a photo album. They're not collector's items. Letters are time sensitive. They usually have to be done within a certain time frame. And also, they're written for a specific purpose. I've had students ask me for letters, and I was like, well, what for? And they're like, well, just a letter. It's like, well, no, it's like there's gotta be a reason for that letter. Either you're applying for a job, in which case it'll be at a specific uh, work location. And usually these places have a standard a policy for how they want their letters. Sometimes they want, a paper letter, like a letter. Sometimes they want me to fill out a form online. Sometimes they just call me on the phone and ask me questions about you. So there's different formats for letters. Um, so make sure you understand what that format is for the particular place you're applying to because it changes depending on whichever school district or place or graduate program. They require different things, and so it's you have to do your homework and kind of see what it is that they need. Also, provide me with all the information that I need to write you an effective letter. I need to know your name, your contact information. A lot of students send me a recent resume and also remind me of like what class you took with me so that I'll usually reference my letter and frame it around the class you had with me. So in other words, like even though you do like a lot of service projects and things like that, I might mention those, but really I'm going to talk about my experience with you in taking a particular class. So that's basically kind of like where I can make a reference. Uh, so also, letters are confidential. So like the other thing I want to mention is like this is a confidential process. So in other words, don't ask to see my letter. In other words, I usually there's a reason for that. Usually I only send the letters to the human resources office. And sometimes they have you fill out a certain form where you waive your right to see the letter. Now, this is kind of an interesting thing. First of all, you want to only get letters from people that you trust. In other words, don't just ask letters from random people that might give you a shady reference. You don't need that. So make sure you trust whoever is going to write you a letter that they're going to give you a solid recommendation. Otherwise, don't ask them, right? Secondly, you want to do the confidentiality. You want to waive your right to see the letter because what I have heard is in the eyes of the employer or the school district or wherever it is you're applying to, it's regarded as a stronger letter. So in other words, if they have the impression that, well, the student didn't, monitor this letter or gatekeep this letter, it's like an authentic reference from me. Now, having said that, I don't mind showing you the letter, but just keep it out of the process, right? Because and I frequently do pass the letter along to my students after the fact. So, but first you have to get through that confidential process, right? So make sure you always agree to the confidentiality, and please pay close attention to the wording on the forms. I've seen students not get a job because they didn't understand the precise wording on the form. Right? So when it says applicant, right? They're talking about you. So make sure you understand the terminology, right? Reference is me. And so d- don't get the titles and the words confused, because otherwise, if there's any source of confusion related to your letter, your recommendation is going to go to the bottom of the pile. So make sure you do your job and correctly apply for the position you're applying for, right? Secondly, a lot of my students, even though they're not certified, but they're in the process of getting certification, um, ask for letters of recommendation and apply for jobs. Now, that's not a problem at all. So go ahead and apply, but make sure you're honest about everything. So if you're in the process of getting certified, make sure you let them know in your cover letter that, hey, I'm in the process of getting certified. And let me know too, because it doesn't do anyone any good if you tell them you're certified and then they find out later that you're not. So I have seen teachers get hired without certification. They go under a contingency plan where they promise to get their certification within, a certain amount of time. And so that can happen if they like you enough. So if you have any other questions with regards to letters of recommendation, don't hesitate to contact me. Uh, you can either contact me through the email, and of course, I always have my address and information that you can use for your reference materials at the bottom of my email and my signature line. But if you ever are away from school and don't have access to my university email, you can always email me at this right there at my AT&T, hgodina9925 at AT&T.net. And that's like an old email that I have, and you can always email me that way. Um, I, I have had relationships with students, for over 10 years where periodically they ask me for letters. I have asked for letters from my professors, years after I had graduated from university. So uh, it happens. Sometimes you want to go into a grad program or you want to apply for a scholarship, and think the years go by and your plans change and you find out you still need a letter. So always cultivate a positive relationship with the people you work with so that you can solicit a good letter from them, because I really want you to succeed at whatever it is that you're applying for. So stay in touch, and I look forward to writing you a good letter.